we're going to hear the rest of Andy in Texas's story. She's a first-time caller um, who talks about her experience being raped at 15 and impregnated in a girl's bathroom. And this is why we need to hear Dr. Ford. Dr. Ford is right to ask for an FBI investigation before she testifies. So, yeah, we're on all of that this morning. Good morning. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, Alessandra Biaggi, who upset another candidate in the primary last week here in New York, is going to join us also. So we're covering a lot of ground today.
This is
Make it plain.
Make It Plain. This is
Make it plain.
Make It Plain. MIP with Masamela Matfumo. Mark Thompson. Make It Plain. Get woke.
All right. Andy's in Texas. Good morning, everybody. We're talking about Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, but Andy's in Dallas, and she was telling us about being raped at the age of 15, impregnated young men in a bathroom in high school where she was in a debate club, and she had to clean herself up and go back out and participate in the debate club. Dr. Height said women don't always do what they want to do. They always do what they have to do. That's what she had to do. Impregnated. You were saying, Andy, that your mom, God rest her soul, knew people here in New York that were able to help you have an abortion and terminate the pregnancy, right?
Yes. I feel fortunate that I have had parents that are or were knowledgeable and understanding and looked at life and looked at us as their children of what is best for us, can what can be done to help us be our true selves and be what we need to be and what we need to grow. First of all, thank you for the 5 minutes because I was able to kind of get myself back together again. So I appreciate that a lot.
Tell the audience again what one of the rapists said to you after as he was leaving.
As he walked out of the door and kind of left me there, or I just remember hearing this voice truly that said, well, that's the best fuck you've ever had. You're so fat and ugly, no one's ever going to want you anyway, so at least you had a taste of it. It's, and truthfully, Mark, it's what the kind of thing that they said, not, it's something that I've actually never told anybody before. But that's basically what was said to me on the way out. And it really did. As much as the rape itself, those words kind of affected me.
That was the best thing you probably would ever have.
Yes.
That's sick. Now, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you stay on for a moment, because I think as an interviewer, I think I'd be remiss if I did not ask you how have you gone on since then? How did you do therapy? How did you treat yourself? How did you heal from that? Have you healed from that?
Yes and no, and I'll just so this is back in the this is before Roe v. Wade, so this is late '60s, 69, early '70 to be exact, late '69 to be exact, but and if you were raped, you didn't tell people you were raped. There were no rape therapy sessions to go to. There were no counseling. There were no groups. There was nothing that you could do unless your parents took the initiative to make sure you had someone to talk to. A lot of it was my mother at first. A lot of it was some people who were psychologists that my mother knew that she put me with. But a lot of it was you didn't talk about it, and it was less about getting through the rape and getting over all of that stuff than it was more about how to cope and how to deal in society when my whole world around me seemed to have changed. So the world is different, and because first of all, you have I have a right to choose. I could get an abortion. It is fairly easy to get to. Life has changed because people realize that this is a personal attack with women, and women need psychological training. The world has changed in that families and clergy and people around them, when they hear things like this, are a lot less behind the back giggling she was raped, giggling that this is somebody, as far as that goes. It was things have changed in that it's they no longer blame the woman. It's like when it first happened, I know that one of the things my father said was, well, what did you do? And my mother looked at him, and it took him a while, and then he came back and said, no, I realize you did nothing wrong. But back then, it was the first thought that everybody had.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, I am grateful that the world has changed. I am terrified, absolutely terrified, that it will go back to the way things were before.
Yeah, and that's what Kavanaugh's going to take it. That's where he's going to take it. Look, I, again, applaud your courage. I think people need to hear these stories. You're speaking for a lot of women who had similar experience, but all of us stupid men need to hear these stories and understand how the women in our lives that we've known and loved for years, in many respects, have been subjugated and victimized in more ways than one. That is the culture of this world. That is the society that exists. And I'm truly sorry that happened to you. And I just don't know. I just don't know what else to say, Andy.
I will say this, and I have pulled my life together. I have pulled me together. Unlike a lot of women that I know that have gone through somewhat similar things, because one of the things that my mother did while she was alive was pull me into volunteering at women's shelters and things like that when I was in college. And I can tell you that unlike a lot of women who have been through me, I refuse to make it run my life. I have in a 40-year relationship with a very wonderful woman that we were able to get married a couple years ago. It
Congratulations.
is. I have a successful career. I have a warm, loving family, both blood and extended family. I feel loved and accepted, and I feel happy that there are things that I am able to do in my life now that I never thought I would be able to do. And I am terrified that people like Kavanaugh and Bush are in a position that they are fully attempting to try to take that all away.
Andy, again, thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. And thank you, Mark, for listening to me.
You're a first-time caller. Do you know what that means?
Yes, I do.
That means
you,
like all of our first-time callers, and especially you, Andy, our first, our last, our everything, the answer to all our dreams, our sun, our moon, our shining star, some kind of wonderful. You and people with courage like you are. Thank you, Andy. Please don't be a stranger, okay? And I'm here for you if you need me, okay?
Thank you.
I mean that. All right. Take care now. 866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997-4748. There are other callers who want to share their experiences with sexual assault, and I appreciate that. I hope others of you appreciate that, because many people have not had a forum to tell their stories. Dr. Ford should have a forum, but she's requested an FBI investigation first, and she deserves that. She ought to have that. Okay? So, we're going to get back to some of you, a couple of you on hold in particular, so please be patient. We get to cover a lot of bases. But I think this is a good segue, because in the midst of all of the assaults that we're hearing about and women coming forward, Me Too, Time's Up, what have you, simultaneously, and I think as a result, it's consequential, is that more women are running for office and more women are winning. That's the difference that's got to be made. If more women are in office, if the Catholic Church would let women be clergy, Lord have mercy. If more women are in positions of power, writing and making policy, all of this changes. And so here's yet another young woman who has done just that, who stepped up and has taken out, so what, we've seen Ayanna Presley. Ayanna Presley beat Capuano. Capuano wasn't necessarily a bad guy. Who was the guy that Ocasio beat? I can't remember his name.
Martin Dillon.
No. Ocasio beat Martin.
Oh, Ocasio, sorry. I was thinking of Julia Salazar. I don't remember who she beat.
Whatever it was, he wasn't the worst guy in the world either. So it's not always someone who's bad. It's just, it's women's time. But our next guest, the guy she beat, now on the other hand, he was pretty bad. So that was timely. Joining us now, she won the primary for state Senate in New York, in the primary has it been a week already? Last Thursday? Yes, it has been a week already. And congratulations to her in Senate District 34, Alessandra Biaggi. Alessandra, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. I'm doing well. My voice is coming back, although it's still a little bit worse.
So you've been talking loud since last Thursday, huh?
I've been talking loud and I've been talking a lot.
Well, that's good. Just what you're supposed to do. Well, first of all, congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
What inspired you to run?
Well, actually, the way that you started out was one of the reasons. Here in New York, one of the things that has been plaguing our state Senate and our state legislature has been this group called the IDC, the Independent Democratic Conference, a group of 8 Democrats that we all elected as Democrats, who went to Albany and caucused and voted and formed a coalition with Republicans. And they did this for 7 years in exchange for larger offices, more staff, and they blocked so much progressive legislation. And so after the 2016 election, after having worked on the Clinton campaign, I'm a lawyer. I worked for Governor Cuomo. A lot of the bills I was working on were being blocked in the state Senate by this group of independent Democratic conference members. And the leader of this group, my opponent, Jeff Klein, was the one who was basically the mastermind behind it. And so it was a really large decision to make. But I have to say that I think that it was one of those moments where my passion and my anger kind of like overtook me in a way that forced me to make the decision, because I realized very quickly that nothing was going to change. No legislation that we cared about was going to pass. Things like criminal justice reform and voting reform, ethics reform, campaign finance reform, women's health issues, public school funding. It was never going to change if we had these 8 Democrats who were empowering Republicans in the age of Donald Trump. And so it sounds much, I'm simplifying it, but that is the main gist of it.
And one of those areas, too, the legislation that the IDC was blocking, one area was the Reproductive Health Act itself, wasn't
That's
it?
right. That's exactly right, yes.
Tell us about that,
that
if you
was
would.
one of the bills I worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in New York State, the Reproductive Health Act is a bill that would codify or make into law Roe v. Wade, because our abortion laws in New York State predate Roe. They're from 1970. They're in the penal code, which is New York's criminal code. And so it seemed like a no-brainer, like this was easy. It's 2017. Donald Trump is the president. We should be passing this bill. And the bill never even came to the floor for a vote, which is quite alarming and very disappointing, to be honest. And so the bill still has not passed. And what we're hoping now, after last Thursday, and of course, after November, of course, taking us over the finish line, is that with real Democrats in the state Senate, and hopefully if we flip one or two more of these state Senate seats from red to blue, that we will have a Democratic majority in a way that will allow us to actually pass the Reproductive Health Act.
Right, and actually get some things done.
Yeah.
Do you agree that this is your time, this is women's time, that this is a moment for women like you to be in these positions, to run, win, and basically be in charge?
I do, for so many reasons, and I have to say I feel honored to be part of this group of women. I mean, you know how we talk about the blue wave? It's also a pink wave in a way that is just inspiring, remarkable, and also really makes me feel less alone. And being a woman who is running right now, I feel like it is imperative, partly because I think that what women bring to the table is compassion and emotional intelligence, empathy. And if we look at the state of the world and just the state of affairs generally, having women at the table, I think, is one of the most important ways that we can make sure that people at large are taken care of. And that's not to say that men or progressive men or even Republican men can't do that, but we all know that women bring something a little bit extra special when it comes to taking care of others. And I think that the combination of men and women at the table and really finding equity there will make a significant change and impact in the policy that we make, in the world that we create, and just in the legislatures that we form together.
Alessandra Biaggi, folks, our very special guest, 20 minutes past the hour. Now, let's go back for a minute, because I want to be sure people understand that, because I don't even know if I understand it. The Reproductive Health Act. So you're saying that, and now, interestingly enough, the last, you may have heard a little bit of the last listener I was finishing with. She was raped at 15 in California before Roe. She ended up having to come to New York, and she was impregnated, ended up having to come to New York to have her abortion. But what you're saying, that's an interesting intersection, because what you're saying is what's on the books here in New York is still pre-Roe, right?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we have our abortion laws are in the penal code, which is our criminal code in New York. And what the Reproductive Health Act would do, first and foremost, is it would take out of the criminal code the abortion laws and put them into the health code, which is where they belong. Also, it would allow for an abortion to occur after 24 weeks if the fetus is non-viable. Now, why that's significant? There have been many women in New York State who have had to leave New York, who have been very much looking forward to and planning their pregnancy, only to learn that at, let's say, week 25 or 26, that they're carrying a pregnancy that when they bring it to term, that the fetus will not and the baby will not survive. That is incredibly traumatic. And so what's happened to women in New York is that they've actually had to leave New York and go to states like Colorado to receive an abortion or any, whatever the procedure is, to then make sure that the pregnancy ended. Now, that's traumatic in and of itself because you have to leave the state knowing that you are not going to be able to carry to term. But imagine this. Imagine if you don't have the funds to leave New York State and you have to actually stay here, carry to term a fetus that is not viable to 9 months. That is one of the most traumatic experiences that a woman can go through, or a family, and really partners can go through. And so, updating this law is just really critical to proving that New York State is also a state that cares about the mental state of women and of men and of partnerships throughout the state.
And carrying a baby to term is something that those of us who are men can absolutely not relate to. That's why I think Mazie Hirano. Did you hear what Mazie Hirano said yesterday, Alessandra?
No, I didn't.
She grab that for Alessandra, please. I want her to hear that. I think she stole it from me because I said it I spoke at the National Congress of Black Women brunch briefly on Sunday in Washington, and I said men need to shut up and stay out of women's business. And so here's what Mazie said yesterday. Here's Mazie.
I mean.
That's Mazie Hirano from yesterday.
Wow.
So, you just described something dealing with your bodies and women's bodies.
Yes.
I don't have a dime in that quarter, Alessandra. Why do I need to control that? Oh my God. Anyway.
I mean, I agree.
Go ahead.
And you know what? Let's take it one step further. Like, there haven't even been women at the table to determine things in New York State like sexual harassment policy. It's crazy what's going on here. And then this is only New York. Can you imagine other states?
Yeah. Well, but I'll be honest with you too, Alessandra. And this study came out, I guess 2 years ago now, and people still haven't dealt with it, how, a growing number, if not the majority, of breadwinners are women as heads of household. So if you're a head of a household and women are breadwinners, why shouldn't women be in political office making policy?
That's exactly right. I mean, listen, women in New York State are more than 50% of the population, and yet in the state Senate, I believe that we're only 22%, made up of 22%, which is a very small number. And then when you look at women of color, and women who let's look at age as well, right? There are certain ages of our elected officials, or a specific formula, I think, that we've previously held to, which is you have to be a certain age. I mean, I think that the future of this party is inclusive and diverse. It is compassionate. It has people of all different backgrounds, all different religions, ages, and genders. And that's the way that we're going to be able to make significant change. We can't have the same type of leaders, and we can't have the same, unfortunately, I mean, and I ran against this, the same, middle-aged man who is really commenting on women's health and, a whole host of things that really have nothing to do with him.
Yeah. No, you're right. I hear you. What happened, Andrew? Yeah. All right. So we lost Alessandra. We're going to try to get it back. Bear with us, folks. We're having a problem with our phone system. 866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997-4748 is the number to call. Okay. Yeah, we got it back.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. We got it now. Okay, cool. There we go. We got you back, Alessandra. Sorry about that.
Hi there. That's okay.
All right. Real quick, and I know you got to go. What are some of the other issues, though, that are specific to voters in District 34?
So housing is a very big issue here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are suffering from rising prices in rent and in the cost of a home, buying a home, whether it's an apartment or a home. And so closing loopholes in our laws to make our rent laws stronger is really important to a lot of people in District 34. Public school funding and making sure that every single child in every zip code has access to quality education is incredibly important to people in District 34. And I will just note that, like many other state Senate districts, District 34 is a gerrymandered district. And so a lot of the funding is disproportionately allocated. And one of the things that I want to focus on is making sure that our funding is equitable across the board because, again, everybody deserves a quality education and a home over their head and a roof over their head. And then healthcare. Healthcare is an incredibly important issue. And that's why a lot of people are excited that I support the New York Health Act. The New York Health Act is a bill that has passed the Assembly time and time again, but has died in the state Senate, and it would basically provide Medicare for all New Yorkers in New York State.
So now, and you're running against a Republican?
There is a Republican and a conservative, although and we take nothing for granted and are going to work very hard to take this over the finish line in November. But this is a district that is almost 10-1 Democrat to Republican.
Okay, good. So you shouldn't have a problem.
Right. Although, again, we are still going to organize and talk to voters and do everything we can to make sure that in November we take this thing home.
And so in terms of not taking anything for granted, does that also include money? You don't need any money, do you?
Well, we're still fundraising actually because we're going to keep staff. We always do, and that's honestly that's.
Alessandra says, "What's this man saying? I don't need any money for? He's crazy? I know. I'm just messing with you. Of course you do."
Campaign finance reform is a very important thing in New York State, but we are still fundraising, and we're still going to make sure that not only for this campaign, but listen, like as I mentioned earlier, there are other districts that we can help to flip from red to blue.
Right.
And if we do that, and we successfully do that, it means that in New York State, we will have every single legislative body and office filled by a Democrat. And that is a very powerful thing.
It is powerful. Okay, folks, she does need money. Please send us some money. Alessandra, where can people make donations? What's your website?
Thank you so much. It's Biaggi4ny.com. Biaggi, B as in boy, IAGGI, the number 4ny.com.
Biaggi for the number 4ny.com. Biaggi4ny.com. Alessandra, good luck to you. Looking forward to hearing great things from you. You're wonderful. Let's talk again.
Thank you.
Please.
I would love that.
All right. Take care now.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Enjoy your day. All right. Take care now. Okay. 866-99-SERIOUS. Our phones are acting up. I think they may have self-corrected. Julie, call us back. You accidentally dropped. Do call us back. And we're going to hear from those of you and your experiences. Manny is on hold. Manny has a story about his own mother and sexual assault. 6:30. Manny, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke and vote. Withdraw Kavanaugh. Get ready for impeachment. Go right ahead.
Hey, so I'm speaking. I'd much rather my mom would have been able to tell this story, but she was told that she was to never tell anyone, and she told me
she was told that she was never to tell anyone.
Correct.
By whom?
Circumstances under which this happened. By her family. They were embarrassed by what happened, and they instilled a deep sense of shame into her. And so I'm going to speak for her because she never got to say this to anyone but me. When she was in her, this was the mid to late 50s. She went to New York.
The 1950s, you mean?
A very beautiful, correct. Very beautiful young woman. She was trying to become a physician, I believe, at that time, which was a whole other story I can get into another time.
Uh-huh.
And she was on the New York subway in a later time of night, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock, I believe. She was traveling by herself, and a police officer came up to her.
This is on the subway.
Pushed her in. Correct.
Uh-huh.
Pushed her into one of the empty conductor booths and raped her in the booth.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then she became pregnant as a result of this and had to have an abortion. And I just...
How old were you when your mother told you this story?
Oh, I mean, I was in my 40s.
Wait a minute. You say she shared this with you, what, a year before she passed? Is that what you told me?
Correct.
Did your father know about this?
He did not. She never told anyone other than her family.
And your mother outlived your father.
No, actually, my father outlived her. She only told me. She was a fierce advocate for women's rights and for women's rights to choose. I never understood, where that was coming from. Her fierceness. I mean, you can be for something, but she was very, very, very involved. She always gave to women's shelters and Planned Parenthood and things like that. And
yeah,
I just, the idea that she felt this way and that she was told that she was she was told all the old tropes, that she invited this attack by looking a certain way, by dressing a certain way. Like, why would a police officer do something to her like that? She must have been asking for it.
Right.
I mean, it was.
And again, she had an abortion like the last caller before Roe.
Correct.
Yeah. Listen, thank you. Go ahead, real quick.
Yeah.
And
she knew other women who this happened to, who were her contemporaries, who some of who I believe one of which who died through the coat hanger thing.
Yeah. Well, that's the story that Andy also told, that she had a friend die because of the coat hanger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, man, I wish I had more time, but thank you for sharing your mom's story. Matter of fact, stay tuned, because Planned Parenthood in the person of Jackie Ayers is going to join us in a moment. But thank you for sharing that story. So this is the first time you've even shared that story with anyone?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. I just felt there was the right forum now to bring it out because of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we're here to help provide that forum. These are compelling stories. Yeah. We've got another one. Julie's got a story too, right? We're going to take a break, and then Julie, I'm going to talk to Jackie, and then Julie, I'm going to bring you on with Jacqueline Ayers of Planned Parenthood to tell your story. Manny, thank you. I know Jacqueline's listening, and I'm sure she'll respond when we come back after the break, knowing that your mother was a fierce advocate on behalf of Planned Parenthood, okay? Thank you, Manny. Yeah. God bless you. God bless your mom, okay?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, folks. Deep Day is always here, 24 minutes before the hour. Sirius X in progress, 127. Resistance Radio, get woke and vote. Withdraw Kavanaugh. Get ready for impeachment. This is MIP. Jacqueline Ayers joins us now.